Morning Shot.
Welcome to Morning Shot. Just last evening, Lawrence Wong delivered his first National Day rally since taking office as Singapore's Prime Minister. A slew of new initiatives targeted at different segments of the population were announced through his speeches delivered in Malay, Mandarin, and English.
Just some key highlights: financial aid of up to $6,000 for those retrenched over a period of up to 6 months while they upskill or look for a new job. More grants for lower income couples and community care apartments for seniors are in the works. And from the middle of next year, singles applying for BTO flats near their parents will get priority.
Also, Singapore is reviewing rules and processes to reduce regulatory burden for businesses. And meanwhile, for families, mandatory paternity leave will be doubled to 4 weeks, and parents of newborns to get 10 extra weeks of shared leave.
Additionally, in a push to cultivate more effective bilingualism, PM Wong also announced that more students will be allowed to take higher mother tongue languages as a subject in secondary schools. For more insights, we're joined by former nominated Member of Parliament Eugene Tan, an associate professor of law from the Yong School of Law at Singapore Management University. Eugene, good to finally see you in person.
Thank you for having me. Always a delight to be in the studio.
Yeah, always a pleasure to have you on. Now, before we dive into your analysis of the National Day rally, let's have a listen to what PM Wong said on his Instagram a week before.
Saudara-saudari sekalian, 各位同胞，大家晚上好。Hi everyone, we are less than a week away from the National Day rally. As is the tradition, I will be speaking in Malay, Mandarin, and then English. I don't have a magic cup, but I'm working hard on my languages.
There you have it. So, Eugene, what's your assessment of how PM Wong delivered the three speeches, as well as the overall direction of where he and his 4G team are headed with respect to the issues he chose to cover in his maiden National Day rally speech?
We are also used to Mr. Lee Hsien Loong's National Day rally speeches, right? We had 20 of those. And so, for many of us, there's a certain expectation of what, the National Day rally ought to be. But I would say that, for his maiden NDR, Prime Minister Lawrence Wong, I thought performed very well, in terms of making himself relatable. He was very relaxed, very much at ease. And I thought those positive vibes, affected the audience as well. And I think that made, in many ways, his message, to be more receptive. And of course, he was very strategic about it, and I don't mean that in any negative way, but he focused on top of the mind issues, such as concerns about job insecurities, about young families and their expectations and aspirations, and had very targeted messages when he spoke in Malay and Mandarin. So he also dished out, what we have also sort of come to expect, of NDRs, certain goodies here and there. But I thought it was a very measured speech, that touched on the key points, that Singaporeans would like to hear from the Prime Minister, in his first NDR. And I think it really sets the stage, for many of the policy adjustments, that he laid out, to be discussed in the months ahead. So I think, I would say that, it was really a good evening, for both PM Wong as well as Singaporeans. And I think, it sets, his team, on a very good start in terms of the major reset of policies, that he spoke about.
Yeah, so Eugene, let's zoom into the initiative centered around families first. More leave for parents, with changes to be rolled out progressively from April next year to give employers, time to adjust their operational and manpower arrangements. A welcome move, no doubt. What does it say about the government's direction when it comes to support for young families?
I think it continues, to be very persistent, if I can put it that way. And the elephant in the room, is really the concern over declining birth rates. I think, with measure after measure, the total fertility rate hasn't really gone up. In fact, last year, right, we reached our lowest total fertility rate. So we are now no longer replacing even one parent. And I think when you want to, and because of that, right, we would need immigration. And I think you can only have immigration, you can secure some of the buy-in if you demonstrate that you are also doing your level best, in terms of promoting marriages, and parenthood. But it is also, in many ways, Mr. Wong's support, for millennials and Gen Zs, the recognition that they too want to have children, but they want the setting to be right. And so together with, the parental leave and mandatory paternity leave, talking about also very affordable and accessible childcare, right, ranging from $3 a month to a maximum of $300, depending on your income level. I think he's demonstrating that, the government is doing its best to help, young families on the family way. And I suppose, it is also his recognition, that in the end, the future of Singapore is really about whether, we can continue, to have babies, growing up in an environment, which will enable, families, to feel that this is really the best place, to raise a family.
Eugene, a significant proportion of the Prime Minister's English speech touched on education and upskilling. So Mr. Wong spoke about the need for an attitude change when it comes to learning, with the introduction of a new training allowance of up to $3,000 a month for those who take time off from work to study full-time. Additionally, the Gifted program, a curriculum catering to intellectually gifted students, will be overhauled and replaced with a new approach for high-ability learners in all primary schools. What do you make of the latest changes targeted at students and workers, and what kind of mindset shifts are needed as a society when it comes to learning and earning grades and certificates?
Well, Imad, two broad themes, right? One is, of course, the whole emphasis on lifelong learning. And so it is not enough to just say that lifelong learning is important to enable you to remain relevant to the workforce, but it's also the government, recognizing that sometimes, people need to retrain, they need support. People who are involuntarily unemployed, will also need the necessary support to get back into the job market, so that they don't take the first job that becomes available. So it's really putting, again, right, money behind, this whole idea of lifelong learning. Right? In that sense, trying to create that conducive environment, for Singaporeans, to go back and learn. But I think the larger theme is really about, the need for us to continually learn. And I think it's not just about relevance to the job market, right? But I think when we do have that spirit of inquiry, right, the curiosity, that we all had when we were children, I think that would make for more purposeful living, if I can put it that way. And about the gifted education program, the major reset after 40 years, I think it's really an attempt to stretch every student, to their full potential, right? So no longer is it confined to 100, 200 students from each cohort, but it's really about, trying to expand, the virtues of that program, to many more students who demonstrate that they can take on, the demands of the curriculum. So this school-based gifted education program, I think, will be much welcome. Although one hopes, that it doesn't add to the stress, that parents and students alike will face. That okay, now there are more places. You should get into that program now.
Yes, absolutely. Let's turn to PM Wong's Mandarin and Malay speeches now. Eugene, a huge emphasis was placed on preserving culture and heritage, and in particular, letting more students take higher mother tongues in secondary schools, as well as the government's plans for the Singapore College of Islamic Studies in the future. And that was an idea that was first mooted in 2016. How crucial are these moves, and why do you think PM Wong chose to introduce them at this point?
Audrey, these are very targeted moves. So in his vernacular language speeches, right, in Malay and Mandarin, they were very focused on community issues, right, and it was really his way of affirming, that under his leadership, that trust and confidence, that the different communities have with each other as well as with the government, is something that he will continue, to work on. But it's also this whole concern about each community's language, culture, and traditions, that he wanted to underline, that that's something that the government, very much agrees with. So again, when we talk about letting more students, take higher mother tongues in secondary school, again, is the effort, to say, well, if you're interested and you meet the minimum requirements, we should not keep that particular course, to a limited number of students. Let as many students take advantage of, learning, their mother tongues, at a higher level. And of course, that there would be other, spin-offs from that. If you think about going overseas to do business and all, but it's really that push, to demonstrate that, each community's culture, language and traditions, will continue to be emphasized on. And with regard to the College of Islamic Studies, I think this is an idea that's taken a while, but I think the whole idea is to demonstrate that, the government recognizes the importance of religion to all communities, but in particular, the Muslim community. But it's also the need, for Islam, to be practiced in the context of Singapore as a multi-religious, multiracial society, because we do have many students, who attend, Islamic universities in countries abroad, and I think he wants to have that option open, for these students to study, Islamic studies, in Singapore. So I think these moves are crucial, right? I think the need as identities remain important, and perhaps one could say that identities have become increasingly more important in a more uncertain world. That it becomes important, to root, younger Singaporeans, in Singapore, right? What does it mean to be a Muslim in Singapore? Are your language and culture safe and secure, in Singapore, where there's a lot of westernization, if I could put it that way. So in many ways, trying to say that, your roots, your traditions, are secure.
Okay, Eugene, let's shift gears away from policy shifts and talk about personality. Throughout all three speeches, PM Wong made a conscious attempt to share his personal experiences with an injection of humor at various points. He also paid tribute to his predecessors on multiple occasions. How would you describe the persona that he is portraying as PM so far, and is that what the electorate is hoping for?
Well, I think the electorate expects many things of our leaders, but I think what he wanted to demonstrate was that, he described himself, for example, as a fellow friend and citizen, to paraphrase him, but it was really, in a way, underscoring, that he would want to make his leadership, personable, accessible, that it's really about, a partnership. And it's also about that continuity, right? The continuity with the past, so the tribute to his predecessors, even going back to second Prime Minister, Mr. Goh Chok Tong, because, that again, served to demonstrate that, he's standing on the shoulders of giants that came before him, and that it is important, that as we develop, we do not forget what was it, that got us here? So even as there was a focus on young people, he made constant reference, to the pioneer and Merdeka generations. So I thought it was a persona, that is in a way quite different from what we would have seen of him, on the multi-ministry task force during COVID-19. I thought he was very relaxed and I think he related very well to Singaporeans, and I think that is something that he would want, to further portray, as he embarks upon, some of the biggest challenges that he and his team will face in the months and years ahead.
Yeah. Well, Eugene, we're almost out of time, but we can't let you go without asking you this. How soon do you think the next GE might be called?
Well, Audrey, my own sense is that we are less than 9 months away. That to me would be the longest, that we will see towards the next GE. It could be as soon as end of this year, right?
Okay.
Or it could be just after budget 2025. But whatever it is, I think, the election drums have already started beating. And I think the National Day rally, while it is a political speech, it was delivered in a very non-partisan manner. He spoke as Singapore's Prime Minister to all Singaporeans. I think he was really, in a way, establishing, the case, for his government, to be given a fresh mandate.
Yeah, all right. Lots to look forward to and some wide-ranging initiatives announced at the National Day rally. And we got a great breakdown of the highlights and key takeaways from former nominated Member of Parliament Eugene Tan, who is an Associate Professor of Law from the Yong House School of Law at Singapore Management University. Eugene, we really appreciate your time and your insights this morning.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Stay ahead with Money FM 89.3.
Money FM 89.3.